Hello everyone, Storm 101 here. Today we'll be tracking a pretty big winter storm that'll be bringing in some issues for a lot of areas. We're talking about the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, the Ohio Valley. You've also got the Tennessee Valley, portions of the South, and even including the Severed Plains. These zones here, got to definitely watch for possibility for the significant amount of snow, and that's not a good circle, but it's just a very large area to watch with this storm system, and it's going to be interesting to watch. So let's go and get started with the watch warning map. I want to first take a look into the mid-Atlantic here. We actually have ice storm warnings and winter storm warnings in effect for some of these regions here, which is mainly for ice, which those guys will be experiencing some freezing rain. And this is the forecast for the National Weather Service offices. You can see really anywhere from a quarter of an inch to maybe 4/10 of an inch of ice. There may be some spots getting close to the half-inch mark, but a quarter of an inch to 4/10 of an inch of ice is looking to be the best bet. But if you're in these regions here, there may be a chance for some power outages and stuff like that. And also, you got very slick roads. It does not take much ice to have very slick roads out there. So if you're in those regions, just be careful out there. Be prepared for power outage. Get some food, maybe even have a generator as well, and have a source of heat. So that's that out of the way. Let's talk about this big, big time winter storm. Definitely looking to be possibly historic in some of these regions here. I've seen National Weather Service offices, but talk about this can be an historic event. I mean, just look at all these watches for pretty much for the same storm. Uh, Areas in the pink, these are winter storm warnings, which will likely see this get expanded to more areas, probably in the next few more hours or so. Um, Areas in the blue, these are winter storm watches, and you can see here it is for a lot of people. You got most of Mexico, southeastern Colorado, the western and southern half of Kansas, most of Texas, northern Louisiana, western Mississippi, northern Mississippi, all of Arkansas, western Tennessee, southeastern Missouri, southern Illinois, central southern Indiana, central and western Kentucky, and central and southwestern Ohio. Yeah, that's a lot of areas, and we do expect these winter storm watches to get expanded over time to the northeast and probably for some more of these regions in here over the next couple days or so. So, yeah, this is going to be quite a widespread event. And let's go on to get into the models here with this. So, we're going to take a look to the GFS. We'll go to precip type with this. So, the storm system will start to begin by Sunday morning. So, your system is right back here. You can see it's moved to the south. It pretty much have a track, something like this, and pretty much something like this here. I mean, this is going to be for like a 4 or 5 day event. So this is Sunday morning, and you can see here this is now getting to Sunday night. You got a lot of areas dealing with some light, moderate, in some spots pick it up at times heavy snow. Meanwhile, across northern Louisiana, southern Arkansas, even back into southern Texas, portions of southern Texas, you can see there some areas dealing with some ice, sleet, freezing rain. So there could be some ice accumulations in some of those areas there. So we got to watch for that. It then becomes a pretty good winter storm for now. The timing of this is Monday night. The GFS is indicating a pretty big winter storm for portions of the Ohio Valley. Definitely got to watch for some of these regions here. It could be another ice storm for portions of eastern Kentucky. Those could be areas to watch because the effects from the first ice storm, which was yesterday, some of that ice is still going to be on those trees and stuff like that. And if we're going to get another ice storm that could put down possibly a quarter of an inch to half an inch of ice, that's going to be a big concern with the system here, especially if we're going to have a little bit of wind to deal with, kind of mixed in with that. And then you can see here, still a pretty big winter storm going up into the northeastern United States as well. And that's kind of getting a little far out, to be honest with you. This is getting into Tuesday afternoon here, so it's going to be a pretty long event here. And then we're going to watch for this system here. That's going to be for a different video, but that could be another major snowstorm or ice storm, or ice storm, I should say, with that. And let's talk about those ice accumulations with this. You can see here what the ice storm going on across portions of Virginia, maybe down into northern North Carolina. Could be a decent amount of ice going on in there. And you can kind of tell where some of this ice is going to be by the GFS. You can see here, not a whole lot of ice forecasted for Severn, Texas, indicated by the GFS. But as you get into Severn, Louisiana, through central Mississippi, northwestern Alabama, east central Tennessee, southeastern Kentucky, most of West Virginia, and eventually getting into kind of along the East Coast. Pretty good swath of half an inch to an inch of ice in some spots, which is going to be overdone. It's pretty typical of these models, but a quarter of an inch to a half an inch of ice seems like a possibility with this here. And again, eastern Kentucky and even into um, western West Virginia got hit pretty decently good about the ice storm yesterday. So that's going to be a big concern for those guys, and that's going to be pretty unfortunate too for some of those guys in those regions there as well. And let's talk about the snowfall amounts from the GFS. And this is in Era right in here. And this is one of the colder solutions, and you know what, I'll talk about that in a moment, but we do have some uncertainty up here, which we'll talk about that in a moment. But looking back into the Severn Plains, you got widespread 6 to 10 inches of snow across a good chunk of Texas, pretty much all of Oklahoma, eastern Colorado, and western Kansas, eventually getting into portions of Nebraska and Wyoming. Then you got this swath of a pretty good amount of snow. This will be the area to watch for a significant amount of snow. Um, some of these folks could get more snow than areas in the Severn Plains with this one. This will be some of the regions to watch for the possibility for significant amount of snow. You got a lot of moisture to work with. You got plenty of cold air. You could get a pretty good round of thumping snow, which could put down a decent amount of snow. But just to let you guys know, this is one of the highest total models with this here. And that's going to be the GFS. And let's take a look to the most consistent model. And this is the icon model. I don't really show this often on this channel, but this has been the most consistent model with this setup. You got Oklahoma and Texas. A lot of snow could happen across those regions. And then you got this swath of a pretty good amount of snow across these regions here, which does not go for the entire event. Which there you go here. You can see here pretty decent amount of snow across parts of the northeastern United States as well. And again, this has been the most consistent model so far with this setup here. And I've seen this slightly increase snowfall totals over time across southwestern Kentucky, central Kentucky, western Tennessee, northern Mississippi, and eastern Arkansas as well. This model's been slowly making these snowfall maps higher. Getting some spots could see 10 inches of snow in there. So this may have to be the model we have to use for now for snowfall forecasting because this is the most consistent model with this setup here. And it does have portions of Oklahoma, Texas with the chance to see up to a foot of snow, which we cannot rule that out. There's a chance some areas may be able to pick up a foot of snow. It's a possibility. And then you see here how the next system kind of materialize pretty much over the same areas across those regions as well, which is interesting. So your snow depth can really go up. And by the way here, for across portions of Oklahoma, Texas, you guys will likely be seeing record low temperatures, very cold temperatures. Wind chills are going to be very cold as well. It's going to be a little bit brutal in some of those regions there. So, I mean, record cold, pretty likely along with this winter storm. So, definitely going to be a little bit of an historic time down there across the Severn Plains. This is the NAM model, which has been going kind of back and forth with this. But you can see here, not much snow. It's kind of all over the place across Texas, Oklahoma, portions of Kansas, eastern Colorado. And then you see this big swath of snow here. Definitely a big difference here with some of these snowfall maps. You can see here, it's got some areas picking up as high as at least a foot of snow across portions of Arkansas, southeastern Missouri, southern Illinois. It does not go for the entire event, so it does not go for the northeastern United States quite just yet. But it's also the furthest west out of the rest of the models. Just to keep in mind that this may be a little bit too far west for my taste. This here may go back to a little bit to the east, but we'll see about that on the next update of the NAM. And this is the European model. Now this is the 10-to-1 ratio. The ratio of general with this setup here, it's going to be higher. If we kind of take a look into the Cachera ratio type of thing, which we do not have access to, but with a setup like this, the ratio is going to be higher, so it's going to be more like 14-to-1 ratio. So the European model is going to be underdoing some of these snowfall totals in some of these regions. You can see here there's a bullseye of about 10 inches of snow across a good chunk of Oklahoma into portions of Texas. Then you got this really healthy swath of snow, really anywhere from eastern Texas, northern Louisiana, eastern Arkansas, northwestern Tennessee, central and western Kentucky, southern Indiana, most of Ohio, and eventually getting up into the interior northeast as well. Pretty good swath of really 7 to 10 inches of snow in some of these areas. So yeah, that's a pretty good swath of snow. And keep in mind, the European model is likely to be underdoing with this 10-to-1 ratio. So just to keep in mind that, so some of these snowfall totals in some of these regions here is probably going to be higher than what it's spitting out. So just to keep in mind of that. This is the Canadian model. This model here's been having a rough time this for the past couple of weeks, so we may not use this model that much with this event, but again, a pretty widespread event across the Severn Plains, portions of the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and eventually getting into portions of the Northeast. It's kind of an outlier a little bit for the Northeast. There's some absurdities up there. But again, pretty good swath, I mean, especially Illinois. 5 to 8 inch snow swath, and it's quite a big difference in what the other models were showing what we're looking at earlier. In a high risk today, it's basically the same thing, and this model's not been doing so hot for the last week or two, so we may not be using this much here. So yeah, on that. And this is the Gfs Ensembles. This is made up of 20 members, and this is averaged out to a mean here by most of the models. And something I really noticed about the latest run, which is the 18Z, there's actually been quite a shift to the southeast with some of these heaviest amount of snows. And also it's higher, which that means that there's a little bit better confidence of those snowfall totals. Some of your high snowfall totals were a little bit more like up here, and now it's been shifted a little bit further to the southeast. So that's a little bit of a big shift from the Gfs Ensembles. And keep in mind, this is just an average, it's just the mean here. And you can see here it's got at least 3 to 5, 6 inches of snow over a good chunk of Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, eventually getting into portions of the Ohio Valley in Northeast as well. And this is the snowfall forecast from the National Forest Service offices. And this is for the next 48 hours. So this does not go through the entire event, but this is by the National Forest Service offices, and this is what their thoughts are. So they got the the panhandle of Texas. Most people generally getting 6 to 8 inches of snow. Similar situation for western Oklahoma. And then you got really the western half of Kansas with 3+ inches of snow. It's pretty much the same situation for Nebraska. And then eastern Colorado and New Mexico. Pretty much 4+ inches of snow across those areas as well. Keep in mind, does not go for the entire event. It only goes through for the next 2 days, which this here will get updated pretty soon. Which I've recently seen they upgraded some of the snowfall totals across the Texas Panhandle, which is at the National Reserves at Armadillo. So this is my temporary snowfall forecast, and this is going to expand to more states over time. It's just because I don't have a whole lot of confidence in the Ohio Valley, Tennessee Valley, portions of the Midwest, into the Northeast. Two of the main reasons. One of those reasons for some of these regions is the confidence is too low. And the other reason is for the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic, it is too far out. That's at least 3 days out till that storm system gets up there. So, yeah, it's a little bit too early to make a forecast across those regions. But I do have better confidence. It's also not that far out across really Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Kansas, and Missouri, and Oklahoma. And kind of have this as a grain of salt. Some of these regions probably see less than 5 inches, and some areas may be able to see a little higher than 8 inches of snow in some of these spots at least. But I think the general bullseye will be somewhere across central Oklahoma, northeastern Texas, with 8 to 12 inches. This may get expanded to some more areas or get smaller. We'll just got to see. But we do have a wide spread, 5 to 8 inches across the northern half of Texas, central Texas, a good chunk of Oklahoma, southern Kansas, and eventually getting into nearly all of Arkansas and southeastern Missouri. And again, like I said, there are probably some areas getting less than 5 inches, and there may be a couple areas that could get over 8 inches. It's just basically a general idea, just to keep in mind of that. And 3 to 5 inches of snow, the southern half of Missouri, southern Kansas, and also western Kansas as well. And then as we move to the uh, central and northern Kansas, and also northern Missouri, the northern half of Missouri, generally 1 to 3 inches. Some places will probably see less than an inch of snow, but again, just a general idea. Then as we move to southern Texas, we do have some uncertainties with the snowfall maps across these regions, especially with some of these ground temperatures. Uh, you've probably seen some of the models if you guys were not paying attention that most models were showing 3 to 5 inches of snow across these regions. But whenever I take a look to those soil temperatures, the ground temperatures, they are very warm. We're talking about 60 plus degrees with some of these ground temperatures across those regions. So it's way too warm for snow to accumulate. Even though if it would be heavy snow, it'll still be way too warm to accumulate. But it will cool down over time. But if there's going to be any accumulating snow, it's probably going to be more of a coating than anything else. Now, for areas that are in the winter storm watch across portions of Louisiana and Texas, it's mainly for the ice potential. Just to keep in mind of that, it's not much for the snow, but it's more for the ice potential. So just to keep in mind of that, especially for getting to portions of Mississippi as well. I know some of you guys are in a winter storm watch. It's mainly for the ice potential, which there could be an ice storm in some of these regions. Still some uncertainties on the ice amounts, but that'd be something to watch for now. But places like around Houston, Texas, San Antonio, some of you guys may actually have a chance to see accumulated snow according to an inch. Seems like a possibility, but again, some of those ground temperatures are going to be a little bit warm. Some of these ground temperatures there are actually about 50, 55 degrees. So it'll take some time, or depending on the rates of the snow, to accumulate. So we're going to see about that, or some uncertainties with snowfall amounts across those regions. Also, Texas, maybe 1 to 3 inches seems like a possibility as well. But yeah, that's pretty much the snowfall forecast. But again, this will likely expand to more areas like tomorrow, depending on if it's consistent or if we have a better agreement, which we have a pretty decent agreement, but it's just the placement and the amounts are a little bit off. But I may expand to Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Mississippi for the snowfall forecast. That's at least what I've planned for tomorrow, just depending on how the models react, and maybe later down the road I'll add Pennsylvania and generally for the northeast of portions of Mid-Atlantic. So we'll be watching this closely, and I probably will have an update on this tomorrow. But anyways, guys, this is Arc for you guys today. Hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you guys like this video, hit that like button. If you really like my channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you never miss an upload. If you guys have questions about this, leave it in the comment section down below. I'll answer you guys' questions. I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.